The items on the agenda tonight, we have several considerations. The first one is that of a gender-neutral ordinance change.
Is that why you said alderperson?
Alderperson. I'm preempting that.
Thank you. As indicated, Alderman Lash has suggested that we consider making changes to the municipal code that would be gender neutral. Staff asked council discussion on this item as whether or not you want to do a wholesale change comprehensively all at one time or on an as ordinances come up basis or somewhere in between. So we ask for your direction.
Comments? Alderman Lash, you want?
Yeah, this kind of, believe it or not, came up as a campaign issue. I had more than one person ask me, why does this say alderman? So, you know, it's something that I wanted to wait until we'd, you know, gotten a few things cleared up before I brought this up. So, you know, I don't think we need to spend a lot of staff resources, money, that kind of thing on it, but, you know, as ordinances come up, if we could amend them at that point.
So you're saying as we make changes to an ordinance along the way, that as they're making the changes in the ordinance, that they can just scan down and change the alderpersons to, or aldermen to alderpersons, or and then he,
yeah.
she?
Yeah. I did anecdotally find it interesting as I was going through the code that every instance in code where a gender is referred to as masculine, except for one instance, and that is the instance in talking about parental responsibilities for a child who's in trouble, and then it's she. So I think if we could make everything just more neutral, that it would.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with that or concerns? Dave?
I guess I can just echo when this has come up before in the tenure that I've been here, and maybe Dean can help us on this. The first concern is, if we were to change it, does that mean that we all then ran for a different office than we're now naming it, and do we all have to run for re-election? That would be the extreme that I've heard speculated in the past.
Who are these people you?
Well, I ran for the office of alderman, and that's a technicality that could get you bounced from the ballot if you didn't write that incorrectly at the time of your election process.
Grandfather, I mean, going forward, I think it's purely for ordinances.
Well,
with respect to the specific question of the elected position, I think the elected position would still be referred to for purposes of election documentation as alderman, because that is the nomenclature used under state law. If the city was going to change that, I think it would probably be considered a change in the form of government that might require a referendum. But in terms of the references within ordinances, we can use whatever terminology council prefers, and that terminology can be used everywhere except for, I would suggest, and of course you're free to fill out your election petitions however you want, but I think the appropriate way to fill them out would be alderman, because that is the state statute. The city currently does have an ordinance, section 1.02, that indicates that genders are either refers to both genders. Masculine refers to feminine and neutral genders. But we can be more deliberate in the terminology that we use if that's the direction of council.
Did that answer your question, Brendan? It's attorneys I've been listening to over the years.
Okay.
There's the problem.
Go
So
ahead.
we can change it everywhere except for the ballot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Ron?
That was just going to be my point as to what statutorily is correct or required, because I recall many years ago this similar subject was brought forth at that time, and at that time it was, I thought I understood that statutorily, I think as you stated, it had to be alderman, but I didn't know about whether or not you carried that throughout all your ordinances and all that. But at that time I believe they elected to let it remain as it was on that. But I guess I really don't have any objection to, hence going forth, if there is some changes to be made or need to be made to specify one or the other, then that'd be fine.
Any problems? Yeah, Dave?
And I think statutorily, it's the position is alderman. Unfortunately, that's at the state level. And we already have something in our code that deals with it, saying that everything is gender neutral. I think it's a time-consuming process, and it's rather unnecessary, being that we've already tackled it in our code. So I just think it's a little bit more redundant that we need to push for.
Kristen?
It doesn't need to be time-consuming if we do it on a case-by-case basis as ordinances come up. And, you can say that he refers to she and she refers to he all you want, but when the only place that you see a feminine reference is in the case that a child is in court and the parental responsibilities, it doesn't seem like that's been taken care of.
Go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. He, she, you can do that with a find replace as you rewrite the ordinances, et cetera, going forward. And I'm with you, Kristen. Girl power. Spice Girls. Yeah.
Okay, if there any opposition to that, can we just, oh, come on, let's go, guys. Dave?
Well, I guess I'd want the city attorney to explain whether or not we need to pass a specific ordinance explaining that that's what we're doing, or are we going to end up in court on every minutia when somebody doesn't like an ordinance and said that you didn't have the right number of votes because of the way it was written?
I think staff can follow your direction and write ordinances that will be enforceable as long as we understand what it is. If you're just looking to replace he with he or she or a similar reference like that, we can do that. If you're also looking to replace alderman with alderperson or alderman or alderwoman, we can also do that. It would just be helpful to understand exactly what the parameters you're looking for are. Is it just replacing non-specific pronouns, or is it also replacing the titles of positions?
What did you want?
As long as it does not put us in any legal ramification with state statutes, then everything gender neutral.
Alderperson and he, she.
Yes.
So we're not aldermen anymore, we're alderpersons, the men? I just think it's going to be confusing. I'm agreeing with Dave.
How is that confusing?
I think it's going to end up not consistent down the road. I mean, we'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis, but I'd rather be consistent with the rest of the
tackle this
state.
problem?
First time since you've been here, Tom, but it's been...
Well, I guess I'm
many
asking the
times.
attorney.
No, there are other communities that have,
Have adopted this?
in different ways, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So is there a motion on the floor to direct staff as it goes along?
All right, I'll make the motion to direct staff that as ordinances are changed or new ordinances are brought forth, that they are gender neutral.
Is there a second to that? Guess it dies for lack of second. It'll remain the same. Okay, consideration of updating the downtown master plan.